Hello, 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 dear friends. Welcome to Democracy Ish. I am Danielle Moody. Waj is currently wrapping a live hit on Piers Morgan's show and is running a little bit late. And we'll jump in when he finishes there. Don't ask me why he continues to do that man show. I have no idea because every time he says that he's not going to do it again because, Piers Morgan is like a Islamophobe, loves to entertain white nationalists on his show. It's wild to me, but you know what? Waj is a stronger person than I am because I just cannot. I begin today before we jump into the news with Waj, and I tell you that every Monday I am absolutely outdone. I am outdone by what transpired over the weekend. I'm outdone by just how absolutely sick America seems to be. When you take a look at, and we're going to get into all of it, right? We'll get into all of it shortly, but I was having a conversation with friends over the weekend, and the end of the year, and I talked about this on the check-in with Jared last week, and that episode is up right now. The end of the year usually brings with it, right? This idea of closure, this feeling of reflection. Let me reflect on the year that has passed and, lift up what I am proud of and kind of think ahead, right? Think ahead to the new year. And we know that it's made up, right? Like if you want to be serious, the new year is really spring, right? When things are reborn and there is birth. But because of religion and and what have you, we start on January 1st, which is like this arbitrary time. And usually at the end of the year, right? Like I don't know about all of you. I don't make resolutions anymore. I used to, but now I just kind of sit and I'm more thoughtful and reflective and kind of meditative as I go through the year. But I got to tell you, I was talking with one of my friends yesterday, and she said that this year was tremendously devastating in so many ways. Like you can probably go through your personal feelings and your personal life in the ways that it was personally devastating for you. People lost loved ones and friends and lost jobs. And a lot, as I've said on the Danielle Moody show, is revealed. It's revealed about who we are as a nation, about where I think a lot of people collectively find themselves. I think that a lot of people believed that they were going to be able to muster through Donald Trump's second term, like, oh, if he's elected, it's not going to make that big of a deal. And, I'll just keep my head down and push through. And now, 11 months into this administration, one of my friends was like, I can't do 3 more years of Donald Trump. I do not have it in me to do 3 more years of Donald Trump. And she's just like, I really, she's a thoughtful, creative, politically minded person. And she's like, this year, this time is hitting so much differently than his first regime did. And I think it's because we all thought, right, back in 2017 when he took office, that Donald Trump was a joke, right? He's a joke, he's a clown, and and whatever, it'll be a blip. But what we've seen now, fast forward nearly 10 years of Donald Trump, like that's what we're coming upon. It's been 10 years since Donald Trump has been given the spotlight and has been a part of our political lives. Is that there hasn't been a day where we have not spoken about Donald Trump. His name hasn't been fucking mentioned. Something horrific that he said, that he's posted, hasn't been shared, far and wide. And you think about how this kind of toxicity truly seeps into your day-to-day existence, right? Like we're going to talk about the fact, and I want to get Waj's thoughts. We had, just like a horrific weekend. Another mass shooting at a school, mass shooting at Bondi Beach in Australia. And you just see in these two horrific incidences what it means to actually have real leadership, right? Like, what is the first reaction from the prime minister? And by the way, Australia has strict gun laws. And one of the right wingers, because there have been so many that are posting, and unlike Waj, I don't follow them all because it's not good for my mental health. It honestly isn't. Like, I'm not, you guys know, I'm not a person that tries to bury my head in the sand, but I take the condition of my nervous system really fucking seriously. And so I don't follow all of these right wingers because what does it serve me to? But folks are, we're posting and saying, well, look, this is why strict gun laws doesn't matter, because there was still a shooting in Australia. There hasn't been a shooting in Australia in 3 years. We can't say that. We can't even say there hasn't been a shooting in the United States in 3 days. They have strict gun laws, yes, because they actually care about the people in in their country. And so what did the stricter gun laws do? 3 years. There hasn't been a mass shooting. There hadn't been one that major, the one that happened at Bondi Beach, in 30 years. Again, for the United States, it's been maybe a few hours. Our friend Wajahat is here. Hi, look at you, looking so fancy.
Why do I go on Piers Morgan? Why,
I
Daniel?
see, and I knew that you were gonna start out, and what I said was like, Waj is gonna join. He's gonna complain about the fact that he goes on to this Islamophobe show with all of these
Uh,
white nationalists,
it
and
was you
I'm
should
gonna
have.
say,
It's true.
"Why, Waj? Why?"
It was a panel of 6 people, just
Mhm.
chaos, just descended into madness. Where I had to sit there for the back end of the panel and listen to Jillian Michaels. Remember the celebrity fitness lady who brought up talking points from 2001 about Muslims not assimilating and this and that, and then Emily Austin, a defender of Israel's genocide, talking about, Australia's problem is immigrants. And I was just like, why do I do this? And then Roland Martin was there. He got bored. Then after a while, I think it was the first time during a live television where I just stopped paying attention and just started looking. I just started looking at Twitter. I just didn't. It comes to a point where like, what's the point? Like, what? I don't
But
even
this
care.
is but this is okay. This is what I say to you, and I ask you all the time. You, my dear friend, have a huge profile, huge platform and following. You have got to decide what is worth your time and your energy. Who are you educating that is watching Piers Morgan? Because anybody with sense doesn't watch that man. I
Yeah,
mean, it's a clown car, right?
it
Like
was a clown car. It
when
was
you
a clown
start
car.
platforming Jillian Michaels, who, by the way, 15 years ago, loved her, had every single one of her DVDs, used to work out to her stuff all the time. And then
Unhinged.
she's a gay woman and adopted a black child. Explain to me, like, her descent into right-wing extremism. I don't understand.
I mean, I was on with her right now. She's deeply annoying as well because, the rest of the panel was oddly respectful when other people were speaking, but each time I spoke, she interrupted with her Jillian Michaels voice, which is like a very like it's like a dog whistle Karen. It's like, what, John Blood? I'm just asking questions. I'm like, just please stop. It what happens is when you go down the right wing rabbit hole,
Oh,
you
somebody
go,
just asked, wait, quickly, what was the topic?
oh
What were you
God.
talking
So
about?
first and foremost, stuff we're going to talk about today.
Mhm.
Pierce, shockingly, was disgusted by Donald Trump's rant against Rob Reiner. So we
Okay,
talked
we'll talk
about
about
that.
that. Yep.
And then it came to the shooting where I tried to remind the panel that the person who was a brave man was Ahmed al-Ahmed. We're going to talk about that. While Emily and Jillian were blaming all Muslims and doing why don't they assimilate? And if even 1% of Muslims are extremists and they all hate, and then yada, it went back and forth. And then I thought Jillian had called herself a white nationalist. She goes, I'm not a white nationalist. I'm like, oh, my bad. Good to know. Sounds like a white nationalist, but I disagree. But I digress. Then it became the whole usual like ignoring the fact. I mean, this is why I brought it up, and they always go back and forth. What I said was, okay, you're going to use the example of two Muslims
Mm-hmm.
to attack 1.7 billion Muslims, to attack all immigrants, to
Mm-hmm.
say that we don't assimilate, to crack down on immigration, to increase, if you will, vetting process, to do investigations. All right. Number one domestic terror threat in America is radical right-wing terrorism and white supremacists. And they go, where did you read that? Number one mass shooters in America, white shooters. Number one pedophiles, white people, white men. Serial killers, white men. What are we going to do? Are we going to kick them all out? Then they flip, Danielle. And also then I asked, so what are Muslims doing to de-radicalize all these extremists? To which I asked Jillian, and she had no answer. What are you doing to de-radicalize all the white men? She goes, well, I go to jury duty, and I'm like, it's all point of this point as Danielle reminds me of what Toni Morrison said.
Mm-hmm.
Racism is a distraction.
Yep.
Because at the end of the day, no matter what you do, that's what I realized.
Mm-hmm.
That's why I just like after a while, I'm just like, I don't, what's the point? Who cares?
Right.
Right? Because no matter what I do, it doesn't matter. No matter how many facts you bring, it doesn't matter. No matter how many times you bring up the history of immigrants and how the foreign-born individuals commit fewer crimes in this country than those born here, that we actually help the economy, that we actually do integrate and assimilate, that everything that they say about Muslims, Somalis, Haitians, they said against the Irish, Italians, Germans, Jews, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. And we've seen, and we're going to talk about in this show,
Mm-hmm.
how Ahmed al-Ahmed is a man who risked his life to literally save so many people. He got shot twice.
Yep.
And we have Tommy Tuberville, a senator in the year 2025, Danielle,
Mm-hmm.
who tweets proudly against Islam and calls Islam, which I mean probably what 1.7 billion people, as a conquering folks, as a conquering people. And Randy Fine says all moderate Muslims are the enemy that must be destroyed.
Mm-hmm.
The fact that this can be said, this can be tweeted, and nothing will happen to them, Daniel.
Mm-hmm.
Meanwhile, Rashida Tlaib is the one that is censured. I mean, sorry. Let's go. Continue. I
No,
just had to
no,
get that out
no.
of my
I
system.
look. I was saying this, and I'll get your thoughts, and then we'll go to the top of our rundown. But 2025, right? Like usually, I don't know what your tradition is as you come to the end of the year, whether you're like a reflective person, whether you're forward thinking and like I don't do resolutions anymore, but I'm more reflective on how the year went and like what I'm looking forward to. And what I was saying before you came on was that I was talking with one of my friends, and she was talking about how just really, really difficult personally, professionally, spiritually this year has been. And like usually when we're closing out a year, we're like, here are the things that went well, and this is what I'm looking forward to. And I think that a lot of people are feeling what is going to be the difference in closing this book in 2025 and opening a new chapter in 2026 with the same people, more radicalized and more violent. And I just want to get your thoughts on like how you're feeling as we're closing out the year.
You know, I think things are going to get worse before they get better. Um, as people lose their jobs, as people can't afford groceries, as healthcare premiums are going to skyrocket, as the greatest wealth transfer in history is about to happen next year with the big billionaires bill, which is going to gut Medicaid. There's going to be more suffering. Measles has skyrocketed, Danielle.
Mhm,
CDC
mhm,
can't be trusted anymore. Climate change is here. The
mhm,
rest of the world is turning away from America in real time. Brain drain. We're seeing a doubling down by his base. Now, even though MAGA is shrinking, the base is like a good 25 to 30%. And we're seeing them getting radicalized. We're seeing, like I said, Tommy Tuberville, Randy Fine, openly saying things that I've never seen a sitting, well, someone of that stature say so consistently and boldly, right? It always used to be Islamic extremists, uh, terrorists, right? The fact that there's four 100 million guns in a country of 340 million people.
Yep.
I think we have to just brace ourselves for things getting far worse before they get better. At the same time, the good news is you're seeing Trump weaken for the first time. And I know people saying, I've been hearing this for 10 years. I'll believe it when I see it. He's dying in real time. Like literally, folks. His base, these numbers are shocking. We've talked about it on our show. Latinos are moving away from him. Young people are moving away from him. Enough people who are apathetic are waking up. So there is an opportunity here for us to organize and build something. And this is a generational moment. However, what I've also said, Danielle, is if we just sit there and say, well, Trump is dying and MAGA is splintering, and okay, everything will return back to normal. What we haven't really taken into account is the normal is the status quo. Suck at the teat of the billionaires, support Israel's genocide, throw the woke under the bus, right? So I feel I have to feel hopeful because cynicism and apathy is cheap and lazy. And I have kids. It's good to see MAGA cracking, but what comes after MAGA is going to be far worse. We've talked about it. We have to double down on our commitment to be more engaged, more energetic, and more organized. And I feel like if we commit to that, and if we commit to the long walk, because it ain't going to be a snap of the finger. I know people think 2026 election, it'll be better. I don't think so, Danielle. I think we got to call the Democratic Party. I think we have to keep attacking MAGA. We have to keep organizing. We can't trust our institutions anymore. And finally, what I'll say is we have to realize that what MAGA is becoming or devolving into is a straight up neo-Nazi movement. And don't take my word for it. Laura Loomer said the GOP has a Nazi problem. You asked me a simple question, but that's where I'm at.
No, and I think that that's right. I think that we have to take a lot of things in stride right now, and by stride I mean like the reality of the situation that we are in, the reality that the amount of hurt that people have experienced in 2025 is going to get worse because more people are going to be laid off. The fact that ICE is escalating, right? So the more people are going to be deported, more people are going to be dehumanized, more people are going to be detained. We'll talk about what's happening with corporate mainstream media. And so the distortion of those feelings, right, are going to be exacerbated by the altering of facts, the whitewashing of Donald Trump, and making us all feel as if we're going crazy, right? Like, I am feeling this pain, but New York Times is telling me that all is well with the economy. I am feeling this, rise in hatred, but you're telling me that like the problem is Antifa, CBS, right? Like there is this entire project of distortion and disconnection that has been underway over the last 10 years and it's gotten worse in the last 11 months. And I think that people need to, if you're thinking about how am I going to manage moving forward in 2026, I think that you're going to have to figure out how you best ground yourself, how you best surround yourself with truth, with people that have integrity, with people that are community minded, and how you lessen your time and attention towards like bullshit, because I think that you have to understand that it's going to get worse and that the disorientation and the desire to tap out is a part of their larger strategy. So what are the ways that you can tap in? So that being said, we're going to start off with the attack on Bondi Beach in Australia. Father-son terrorist team that murdered 15 people, 20 some odd people, including the courageous Ahmed El Ahmed,
Ahmed
Ahmed,
Ahmed, I think.
yeah, who, I mean, I don't know the kind of cortisol like rise, the kind of rush of adrenaline that met this heroic man, and I say hero because I think that we throw that word around too much. But this is an act of heroism where he is a father of two. He is a business owner. You begin to think about yourself, right? And self-protection. And that is not at all what he did. He ran into danger to save other people from a horrific fate. And the the absolute just like the polarization that we see in the United States is global. And you saw it with the realization that this man is a immigrant, that he is, I believe that he is Muslim, and the way in which they're trying, and those in on social media, mainstream corporate media, trying to erase those facts in order to fit their narrative in real time, even going so far as to use AI in order to create an alternative narrative. Waj is bananas, but that's where we are.
It's yeah, someone said it's Bondi Beach. This
Oh,
was
Bondi.
Yeah,
Sorry.
look, for those who don't know, we're going to talk about it, the dehumanization of it all. We had this man, Ahmed Al-Ahmed, who, I don't know if you've seen the video. Do we have the video, Danielle?
Yes.
I mean,
Let
I think
me
this video is one of the most remarkable videos I've seen in such a long time.
hold on one second. So this is the screenshot of him, and he is hold
He's the
one
man in the
second.
white guys right in between the two cars.
Here we go.
And you see the man shooting. He came in
Oh!
here. Look at that.
C'est un malade. Oh mon gros. Oh! Ouais, mais il y a son pote, il va se faire tirer dessus. Il est trop con, le mec qui a l'arme.
I mean, the man was unarmed. He's not law enforcement. The guy's an active shooter with the biggest gun. I haven't seen a gun that big in my life. He's shooting. As he's shooting, folks, what you kind of didn't, what maybe you didn't see is all the way to the right. The son is also shooting. So there's two shooters. He disarms this man, turns the gun on him, and then very wisely he hears the police coming. And I know this is something I think people of color think about. I don't know if you thought about this, Danielle. I've thought about this before as a Muslim, as a brown man, that if I'm in that situation, inshallah, hopefully none of us are in that situation, but if I'm brave enough as Ahmed, which very few of us are, and in this situation where we could disarm someone and we're holding a weapon and the police come, they'll think it's us and kill us, right? So did you
Oh,
notice,
100%.
thought
And
about
he
that
laid,
also?
and he laid the
You see what he did?
gun
Yeah.
against the tree, and then put his own hands, because let's just be clear that there is shooting that is happening. The police are coming into it, and this is what I'll say: police are coming into an active situation. I am going toward the person that is holding the gun, right, that I see. So for him to disarm that man with what looks like a fucking 19th century musket the size of my body at 5'1", and then to lean it down against the tree, put his hands up while he is sustaining shots, and then you realize he's taken the gun, but the shooting is not stopping. Then you realize that there are two shooters. I mean, it's that
And he got shot
entire scene
twice,
twice.
Daniel. Yep, that's what people. And originally, when I saw the video, I'm like, "That's amazing." And then I saw the follow up. He got shot twice, so it's not like he emerged unscathed. Because if you see the full clip, the son on the roof, or rather the overpass, is actively shooting at the man. And then I didn't see him get shot, but later you see blood. So here's a man, no law enforcement, doesn't have a gun, um, disarms him, puts the gun on him, doesn't kill the man either, right? I was
which
thinking about,
which was extraordinary restraint, because yeah.
yeah, right, Daniel? And then has the wherewithal to realize police are coming, brown man with gun, not me, puts the gun away, is still being shot at, gets shot. And as this is happening, as bodies are falling, as blood is pouring out of these poor victims, right? These were Jews in Australia welcoming the first night of Hanukkah at Bondi Beach, very popular spot. This is what happens with dehumanization, that the two shooters didn't see them as human beings. They saw them as a representative of something else. The flip side of it is you already saw folks on social media, a lot of right-wing influencers and others, aha, brown men, let's jump on it. Aha, there was a brave a rescuer who intervened. And this is where we get Riley Gaines, who finished 5th place, and that radicalized her, and she didn't even compete for a medal. She goes, absolute legend, thank God for this man. And then the post became unavailable. And Amani, who's Muslim, goes, when they realize Bondi hero is Muslim, and it suddenly, quote, this post is unavailable because it completely contradicts the narrative that they're trying to sell, that all Muslims and all of Islam is to be blamed.
Yeah. And there were more, and I loved your post, Waj, that you said, not the first time a Muslim civilian stepped up to save lives. A Pakistani Muslim cab driver did the same in March of 2025. Individuals become radicalized and committed towards hate and violence. Sadly, it's a global phenomenon. They don't define an entire people. And I think that what is important here by what you are articulating is that anytime that there is someone who commits an act of violence who is a non-white person, then it is the responsibility of every person of that group to denounce said person, because we're never seen as individuals, right?
That's right.
There is, and I wonder always, every time that there's a shooting, so at least multiple times a week, I wonder what would happen if in fact we actually did say, what the fuck is wrong with white men who commit most of the shootings in the United States, 90% of them, right? And actively engaged in trying to, right, stop that wave of violence. Like if we actually spoke about the white community in mass, as opposed to this just seemingly, community of individuals. Do you understand what I'm saying? Like
just use the same logic against them.
Yeah,
right?
There is a clear pathology at play with white cis hetero men in the United States that have a penchant for becoming radicalized at a young age, in middle age, in later age, right? What if we actually, as a society, said, what is going on, right? On top of, obviously, getting rid of guns in this country, not having them be so easily gettable, but really having a conversation about the radicalization of white men. But we won't do that. We will never do that, because white people run the media. White people run the legislature. White people are sitting on the bench, and they don't see themselves as a group. They see themselves as individuals, where everyone else is just painted with one big brown and black crayon, and that's it, right? There is us as individuals, and then everyone else.
And they'll never do that, and they'll never engage in it. And it takes me back. I did that at Piers Morgan. Jillian had no answer, and then Piers rushed along, because the fact of the matter are, in America, like you said, identity of mass shooters, number one, white men. Serial killers, Danielle, white men. 1,600 violent insurrectionists, speaking about lack of assimilation, overwhelmingly white men and women. If you're looking at child predators, white men. And yet you and me, you're a black woman, I'm a Muslim man, we don't ask for the mass racial profiling of white people. We don't ask for condemning all white people. We don't ask the white ambassador to come out each and every single time there's a white mass shooter or a white assassin, or Donald Trump's 2 assassins, white men, right? Because we're not sociopaths, number one. Number two, we know, as it has happened to our communities, that it doesn't help. it causes more pain, causes more division, makes the country more fractured, right? When you blame everyone for the crimes of a few people, when you engage in this type of demonization, right? It poisons the well. And also, when you turn and flip the tables, there's never an answer, ever. Like, so maybe we should kick all white people. Maybe white people can't assimilate. Maybe we should teach white men how to assimilate into Western civilization. Here, Danielle, let me go a step more bold, if I will. Maybe it's these white MAGA triple Trumpers who still support Donald Trump and support the violent insurrection. Maybe they're the traitors to this country.
Yep.
Maybe they can't assimilate. Maybe they're against our values. Maybe they're against free and fair elections. Maybe they're against democracy. Maybe they're against diversity. Maybe they should leave. Maybe they should get out. Maybe they should go to Hungary.
I mean,
Too
it's
soon?
just like but here's the thing, like, this is what makes me upset, is that we can never engage in the heart of the heart and real conversations about the sickness that has always been a part of American culture, America's founding, this idea that white people, white men get to take, extract, take, harm, harm, harm. And we never think to ourselves, why is that? What is happening here? How do we stop this? I mean, I talk about on the Danielle Moody Show, and I've talked about it here. There are classes that are happening in other countries to teach young white boys empathy, right? To teach empathy. After the movie Adolescence, right? That big Netflix hit came, and it's showing this young 13-year-old kid that like ends up killing classmates. And people are like, whoa, this is serious. We have a serious problem here. I don't understand the lack of desire or curiosity at that to actually face this mirror, face this truth, and say, what is happening here? Right? You have the time and the ability to write bullshit, bogus reports on the Black community, on Black single parents, on the superhuman powers of Black men, on this on 1.7 billion people in Islam, all terrorists, right? Like, do all of these things except actually look in the mirror. And I say this, and all of the things that you said, these are the things that are said in response to any type of action that is taken. Now it goes so far as, if the person is trans, we must do away, all trans people must be locked up. But they do not ever apply that same logic where every single credible report tells us that the problem in this country, as Benny Thompson tried to get the bogus FBI director of national security threats to say, he said the biggest threat that's facing the United States is Antifa. Representative Benny Thompson. So where is Antifa headquartered? Where is Antifa?
Wait, let me do the impression.
How many members of Antifa have you discovered in this cell that you've been investigating?
It's exhausting. You know, look at this. Especially as a Muslim, this is like a reboot from 2000. It's been 25 years. We've been real quick. It's been 25 years dealing with this. Each and every single time there is a Muslim who does something, it's the same. You have to condemn it. The radicalization, Muslims can't assimilate, end immigration. Where are the good Muslims? How come they don't condemn? Look at what the Quran says, right? And then you have to go, like, it's just, you go through the same bullshit, and it doesn't work. It doesn't work. Because I remember it took about 10 years after 9/11. Where were all, remember this? Yep. Where were all the Muslims who condemned 9/11? Literally, there was a college student who made a database, like hundreds of pages, Danielle, from imams, from mosques, from community leaders. It still wasn't enough. Prove that you're moderate. You jump through all the hurdles. It's still not enough. Prove that you're not trying to implement Sharia. You prove it. It's still not enough. Prove that you're not a threat. It doesn't matter. They're angry because we're here. They think we're trash. They think we're quote unquote garbage people.
Yep.
They want to get rid of all of us. You saw in the past 2 weeks, Somalis are garbage people. Criminals? Fraudsters, all Somalis. Also, Haitians are eating dogs and pets. No, they're not. Well, we're going to say that they are. Why can't people come from Norway and Sweden? Why do they come from the shithole countries? Stephen Miller. Worst thing that happened was the Immigration Nationality Act. Stephen Miller. Let's end birthright citizenship. Stephen Miller proudly said a couple of days ago, under the Trump administration, we have pretty much finished all immigration from countries, except we're making an exception for white refugees, right? Remigration, literally a Nazi talking point for ethnic cleansing. It doesn't matter, Danielle. Like, this is who they are, right? That's why it's so exhausting. And just to show you the ugliness of it all, in order to propel this narrative of us versus them, all Muslims are evil. Even after Ahmad al-Ahmad was found, can you tell them what they did?
Oh, the AI piece?
Yes.
Yeah. So this is what I'll say. This shit has been happening in the United States, in the world since the beginning of time, right? Which is the erasure of this man's story, Ahmed al-Ahmad, his story, his heroism. They went so far as to create an AI generated disinformation referring to this man as Edward Crabtree, created an entire AI generated backstory about this lie, because white racists cannot possibly compute the fact that a Muslim man risked his own life to save Jewish people. That just does not work with their narrative. And so I say, this has been happening since the beginning of time. I cannot explain to you, and I will say this, and I'm going to say something that is probably going to get me in trouble, and I don't really care. White people have been erasing Black excellence since before the Declaration of Independence, since before, right? The Pilgrims supposedly landed here. You erased an entire history of indigenous people who helped you make it and survive the first winters here. You erase the narrative of slaves who did not come here unskilled. They were absolutely abducted, kidnapped, and tortured because of the great skills that they possessed. But in our history books, what you learn is that, oh, it was the benevolent white slave master that then imparted so much knowledge and taught these people how to do. And then you learn, if you actually are curious and investigate through your life, all of the names that have been erased of those that, oh, I don't know. For instance, Jack Daniels didn't create fucking whiskey. Uncle Nearest did, right? That's just like one example. Oh, all of the inventors that, brought us things like traffic lights and electricity and all of these things were not fucking white cis men. So when I watch the technology being used now, just a different tool, same erasure, different tool to do the same thing.
It's a reboot, folks. And, this is an important point, because we live in the United States of amnesia, and we forget our own history. All these folks who are defending white civilization, their ancestors, most of them, weren't considered white in America. If you are Irish Catholic, if you are Italian, if you're Polish, if you're a Russian, if you're an Eastern European Jew, if you're a German, at one point in this country, everything they're saying about Haitians and Somalians and like people who come from shithole countries and Muslims was exactly said about you. Fifth column, they breed too much. They won't integrate. They can't assimilate. They import diseases. They bring in diseases. They're a criminal element. It's literally, I'm telling you, folks, just if you have 5 minutes, go check it out right now. Mm-hmm. Just take out Muslim and Somali and Haitian and just put in Irish, put in Italian, put in Jew. That's what this country did. It's a reboot. What you were saying, Danielle. It's the same thing that happens. And what it is white supremacy. And the reason why they're getting so, if you will, bold and brazen about it, as we've said on this show, is the death rattle of white supremacy has turned into a death march. it has turned into a death march. They're playing for all the marbles. So I've been in this game for a long time, folks. Do we have, look at this. Look at this.
Mm-hmm.
This was yesterday. This is a sitting congressman who, by the way, has a history openly of tweeting just garbage against Palestinians and Muslim genocidal stuff. Who last week, we did on the show last week, where
Yep.
he tweeted not just radical Muslims, extremist Muslims, Islamists, violent extremists. He said mainstream Muslims should be destroyed.
Yep.
He tweeted it out. He said it. I think he was in Congress. He said it. Then he had a clip and he quoted himself and tweeted it out. And then this is what he says: "The religion of peace strikes again. How many Muslim attacks do there have to be until we say enough? Angry and brokenhearted for those killed simply for praying." All right, let's flip it. The master race strikes again. How many white attacks do there have to be until we say enough? Angry and brokenhearted for those killed for simply praying. Let's do it again. The religion of peace strikes again. How many Jewish supremacist or Israeli attacks do there have to be until we say enough? Angry and brokenhearted for those killed for simply praying. Can you imagine a congressperson tweeting the last two tweets?
No, because they would lose their jobs. They would be censured in the way that Rashida Tlaib was censured, and they would lose their jobs, right? They'd be called for their resignation. But again, when you are a white racist, a white nationalist, when you are calling and attacking a group that everyone else, right, deems to be okay to be attacked, then you're fine. Right? You're fine. And before we switch gears to the other horrific shooting that happened, and this time in the United States, I just have to say, folks, it is really important. I'm going to go back to what I said at the top. Things in this country, I've been saying for 10 years, are going to get bloodier before they get better. And if you are not grounding yourself in some type of spiritual practice, religious practice, community practice, togetherness, if you are not taking time, right, to detach from the toxicity, you will begin to believe that there are more Randy Fines than there are Ahmeds. And that is not true. Right? Maybe it's 50-50, but I don't want us to fall down this rabbit hole that has us believe that the majority of humanity is despicable, like Donald Trump and Laura Loomer and Randy Fine and Tommy Tuberville, because that's not the truth. But if all you take in is the shit that they put out and it's nonstop diet of that, then that is what you will begin to believe, and you will then lose your faith in humanity and our possibility to change. And that is what they want. So you have got to really be conscious, not to be an ostrich, but to be conscious of what you are taking in and from what source, because the whole point is to make you believe that they are bigger and more powerful than they actually are.
That's right. And they're bullies. They're weak. They have weak chins, weak knees, and weak cankles. These people are fragile. They're losers. They know they're losers. They're Pete Kexets, and they're the Pam Bondis, and they're the Laura Loomers, and then they're the Groypers and the Nick Fuenteses, and they can dish it, but they can't take it. They're like Donald Trump. They can dish it, but they can't take it, and they melt down, and they have to get rid of diversity because they know they can't compete with us. And when they compete with us, they keep losing, which is why they try to elevate themselves. And then you get a what? A Scott Duffy, a Sean Duffy, a Pete Kexet, an RFK Jr., completely unqualified, incompetent men who will destroy this country, and they have their base that are literally willing to die for whiteness. They will burn down the house instead of sharing the house with me and Danielle. Not only will they burn down the house, they will burn down the entire neighborhood.
So we switch gears now to the horrific school shooting that happened at Brown University. And right now, as we are talking about this, the initial person of interest that was detained by police officers has been released, which means that the shooter or shooters still remain at large. 2 people were killed. Several more remain in critical condition. This is the type of shit, by the way, that this administration was posting while this devastation was unfolding, right? Like, this is the time, and this is what I'm saying. Like, you have to see and understand Donald Trump and MAGA's behavior as nothing other than sociopathy, because it lacks any type of humanity, and you cannot allow yourself to think that this is normal or normalize it. Because while Washington State also, as the post says, is under fucking water, by the way, horrific flooding that has been happening there, mass shooting happening, this is what is coming out of this White House. Post that, right? Think about that. And then what the Australian Prime Minister, Albanese, has said following this horrific attack, right? Which is that he is going to propose tougher gun laws after the Bondi Beach. And I want you, after the shooting, and I want you to take a listen to what Albert Albanese, the Prime Minister of Australia, said following the terrorist attack, while Donald Trump is posting pictures of himself and has no ability whatsoever to have reflection, to hold the country, to have compassion, to show empathy, none of it. But take a listen to what an actual leader looks like.
It's a moment of national unity where we need to come together, and in particular, at this time, we need to wrap our arms around members of the Jewish community who are going through an extraordinarily difficult period. Not just those who are grieving loved ones and friends, but every member of the Jewish community in Australia. This has been an extraordinarily traumatic 24 hours. My job is to provide support for the Jewish community, is to make it clear that Australians overwhelmingly stand with the Jewish community at this difficult time. What we've seen in the last 24 hours ago was the worst of humanity in a terrorist act, but we also saw an example of the best of humanity in Ahmed al-Ahmed running towards danger, putting his own life at risk, being shot twice by the second perpetrator as he took the gun bravely off this terrorist, and that saved lives. We in Australia, regardless of where who people believe in, what their faith is, or whether they have no faith at all, overwhelmingly, we are a great nation, and we are not going to allow anyone, let alone these terrorists, to divide us. What we will do is we will unite, we will work together, we will continue to overcome anti-Semitism, and we will continue to oppose terrorism, to honour those people who bravely stood up, including the 2 police officers who've been injured because they also ran towards danger.
I mean, we are so starved, Waj, for leadership. You don't realize how we are so malnourished by the hatred that this country has been feasting on for the last 10 years, thanks to Donald Trump and to MAGA, that I forgot what a leader is supposed to actually do in the face of horrific acts, and is supposed to lift up the entire country, not just the faction that voted for them, is supposed to at once denounce terrorism and then lift up those, right, that are the heroes that show both sides of the reality that we live in. I just your thoughts on his on this interview.
You know, I appreciate you finding that clip. It's the first time I heard it, so that's why I was listening intently. And I found it while you were just speaking right now and listening to you because I wanted to share it. And the reason why I shared it on my platform, I mean, I don't know who watches or listens, is because I'm like, I wish we had leaders who talk like this after a tragedy, right? This is how it should be. A leader of a country, regardless, Danielle, if you voted for them or not, right, left, whatever, conservative, liberal, Democrat, they represent the nation. They're the figurehead, the statesperson. They're the ambassador for the country. And in moments of crisis and tragedy, you want strength, you want leadership, but you also want compassion. You want comfort. You want comfort, right? So you can imagine Australia, especially the Jewish community, you know, welcoming Hanukkah. I mean, just in shock. They're still burying the bodies. I'm trying to save people who are injured. And you see this man, Ahmed al-Ahmed, who, you know, they would have killed more people, man. They were still shooting. This man saved folks. And then you see people step in and use this against Jews, against Muslims, against immigrants to promote more guns. And he comes in, doesn't throw Muslims under the bus, doesn't throw immigrants under the bus, doesn't throw anyone under the bus, just comes in for healing, elevates the hero, has compassion for the victims in the Jewish community, wants to make sure that they feel safe, will do everything to make everyone safe. And furthermore, folks, the fact about Australia, they had a shooting in 96. In the past 30 years, Danielle,
Yep.
do you know how many mass shootings there have been in Australia? 13.
Oh, 13.
Do
Okay.
you know how many there have been in the United States of America in 2025?
More days than there have been.
Take a guess. Take a guess. I'll tell you.
360, 350.
That's actually an amazing guess. 388.
Yeah.
We don't have to live like this, folks. And so the fact that he's coming into what you said, that is that they're going to even impose more strict gun laws to make
Mhm.
themselves feel safe. I want you all to realize that the United States is this only country in the world. I've traveled a lot. They look at us and no country on earth understands. Like, this is the one question, Danielle, keeps coming up. Why, oh, why are you all obsessed with guns, especially when there's so many mass shootings and so many kids get killed? And as this is happening in Australia, literally what's happening at Brown University.
I mean, I like, so Brown University, right? The manhunt now continues for the gunman that killed 2 people, had the university on lockdown as they are in their first week of finals, right? The story that gets me right now from this, and I'm going to jump ahead, is this one. The college student, 20 years old, survived Brown University tragedy years after Parkland High School mass shooting. Zoe Weissman has now experienced not 1, but 2 school shootings in their young life. And this isn't a new phenomenon.
Nope.
And we're going to get to a point where there's more people like myself who survived 2 of these. At least 2 people have died. 9 others were injured at the Rhode Island-based college, while 17 people were murdered and 18 others were injured during the Florida high school tragedy. And I will say that Zoe Weissman, not the first, because there have been other university school shootings where there are those that survived Sandy Hook, right? And were freshmen, sophomores at universities. And I cannot fathom. And this is what somebody tweeted, and it was the same thing that I said following Sandy Hook now 20 some odd years ago. I said, that was the day that the gun debate died in the United States. Because when this country felt comfortable enough to allow a classroom of white babies to be murdered and did nothing, I knew that we were never going to do a fucking thing about gun violence in this country. That was the end. It was the exclamation point. It was the punctuation. Because my God, a nation that actually allowed, 13 years ago, thank you, Sandy Hook, a nation that allowed, just sat by, still made it a partisan issue.
Yep.
Elementary school, first graders, kindergartners, their teachers mowed down in their fucking classroom, and we could not come together 13 years ago and say enough is enough. And I'm like, this shooting in Australia and the reaction from the PM and what happened in New Zealand after the mosque shooting and the reaction from the PM there. These other countries, look at the United States, they take one incident and they're like, oh, we're never doing this again. We've had 380 shootings and the year is not complete. There are more shootings in 2025 than there are days.
388. And I'm with you, Danielle. Once I saw Sandy Hook, and I always say, why Sandy Hook? Because I think we can safely say this country kind of cares less about poor black and brown kids, right? But it cares less about any kid. Poor white kids, poor black kids, poor immigrant kids, poor undocumented kids, poor citizen kids, poor wealthy kids, poor middle class kids. Because Sandy Hook, those kids, that community was a pretty upper middle class suburban white community, right? It wasn't the urban city, right? It wasn't like in the Appalachian trails, right? It was like, an affluent, successful, educated, mostly white community. And this country still didn't care. It didn't care about babies, white babies, rich white babies. This country still didn't care. And so this is a disease. And by the way, mass shootings, there's so many, we're going to forget about this by next week because there's going to be another mass shooting. There's Vance Bolter. They don't even talk about him because he was a radicalized Trumper who killed Melissa Hortman. We don't even talk about Tyler Robinson anymore, the alleged shooter of Charlie Kirk, because it was a white guy. We don't talk about the white guy who was radicalized and shot at ICE and immigrants in Chicago. We don't talk about the radicalized white Trumper who took his car in the Mormon church, right, in Michigan, blew it up. We don't even talk about the violent insurrectionists, 1,600 of them. Mostly white. They got pardoned by Trump. One of them, I think, was just arrested a couple of weeks ago for trying to have sex with a girl. We don't talk about any of this stuff because we forget there's so much. We've become numb to it. We've become numb to bullets shredding apart the bodies of our children. And as this is happening, instead of having, tough gun laws, they say more and more guns. Ahmed al-Ahmad didn't have a gun. He just had bravery. He had decency. He had conviction. He had courage.
Yep.
The man has no law enforcement training. The man did not have a concealed weapon. He just bum rushed the guy, took away the gun, got shot at, saved lives. The people in charge, though, who are cosplaying crusaders. People like Kash Patel with zero law enforcement background who talks tough behind a keyboard and wears a medium FBI woman's jacket to cosplay and come out. And what has he done? Third investigation that he's effed up. I remember when it came to Charlie Kirk, before there was any evidence, right, came out and blamed the left and blamed trans and this and that. What happened? It was allegedly Tyler Robinson. Then when it came to the Chicago shooter, remember the bullet? ICE, or right? And they're like, okay. Then remember that? Once it didn't match, we never talked about it again. And now, can you tell them what happened? Because they had a suspect, and late last night, folks, they released him. So I had to email Danielle and said, we got to scrub it. Because, Danielle, can you tell them?
Because Kash Patel's FBI fucking leaked it. To look tough on social media, to look tough in front of Donald Trump. And I want to play this clip because the chief of police was like outdone and disgusted.
Came in just like we were taking any other tips, and that one came in specifically identifying a person of interest, which was this individual. And so our detectives got on it, just like they got on others, but in this specific one, it was actually picked up by the FBI, and they followed through with it, and they ended up coming and locating this individual of interest. And at that point, we did a thorough investigation, examined, ended up drafting some search warrants, came up with some evidence, but that evidence was examined, and we didn't have enough, obviously, to be able to prosecute anybody, and so that person was released.
But this is what happens when you are a keyboard warrior and not an actual warrior.
There you go.
Now, what the chief of police is saying is, yes, this is what it means to do investigations, but this is why we keep those investigations under wraps until we actually have enough evidence to be able to then announce a charge. But what these people inside of this MAGA sphere, the only thing that they are good at is pomp and circumstance and going on social media, getting dolled up to go on television so that they can do their shuck and jive for Donald Trump and look tough, but actually have nothing to back it up. And all they do is cosplay, right? And real people are going to get killed, going to get harmed because of it. So now this person whose face was literally everywhere has now been released, right? What do you think happens to that person, right? So it like they could have had the person of interest, and you say we have a person of interest. You don't send out the photo, you don't send out the name, you wait until you have more, and then you release those things to the public. There are actual steps that happen that real law enforcement knows and follows, not these cosplaying keyboard warriors who've been given the most important jobs to have.
I mean, what more do you need to see, folks? And I want to remind folks also, look what's happening. If they cared about security, if they cared about making us safe, they would go after the number one domestic terror threat in America, which is radical right-wing terrorism. They scrubbed the study from the DOJ, Danielle.
Mm-hmm.
That's how much they don't want to go after it. That's how much they're enabling it, to the point where they're promoting their conspiracy theories of remigrate and replacement theory. But what do? They've been looking for the Reichstag fire 3 times now, right?
Mm-hmm.
Since the summer with ICE, since the Charlie Kirk murder, and since the Afghan national shot those 2 National Guard members. They've been trying. This is where the right after the Reichstag fire moment, which they're still trying, folks. It was the Afghan national. Then they find out, oh crap, he worked for the CIA. We brought him in. We vetted him. We gave him asylum. Then he switched to what? Third world countries. Donald Trump did on Thanksgiving. Then Somalis, right? Haitians were already happening. The hate against Haitians. Then all immigrants from shithole countries, right? Now remigrate, ethnic cleansing. Now full-scale assault on Muslims and Islam. It's happening. It's so unsubtle, right? And each and every single time, it's really interesting. They tried so hard to blame the left, right? It's all part of the left. The left, the Jews, the blacks, the transgender, everyone who's against Trump, right? Each time they tried to do it, who was the shooter, alleged shooter of Charlie Kirk? A white man. The Latino community did not respond with violence after ICE was unleashed on them, right? The person who shot and killed Melissa Horman, Trumper. The person who tried to kill Donald Trump, Trumper or former Trumper. And now they were going to go all in, Danielle, with Bondi Beach, all in. And I was talking to a whole bunch of Muslims. I'm like, look at this. That video of Ahmad al-Ahmad, it completely short-circuited their brains, right? Completely short-circuited their brains. And then yesterday, they're still trying to find someone to, like, I'm sure they'll be drooling. Oh, how desperately they want a Somalian or a Mexican or a black person to be the shooter in Wisconsin. But what happens? Just what happens? I'm throwing that because we don't know. Hypothetical. If it's a white guy who supports Trump, what do you think they're going to do, Danielle?
Well, we won't know their name. We won't see them. We won't hear from them again. But to distract from that, they will draw up national troops to be deployed someplace. They will escalate ICE deportations. They will do whatever they can to spin truth into a bunch of misleading disinformation and lies, so that they can continue with their narrative, and their narrative, which honestly is beginning to break. Because I go back to what you said at the beginning. Donald Trump is disintegrating right before our eyes. MAGA is disintegrating right before our eyes. It does not mean, folks, that the cruelty is not going to be amped up, that the violence is not going to be amped up, but we call a spade, and you got to call it like you see it. And when you are winning, you don't move the way that these people are moving. They are losing, right? And when they're losing their fucking grip, which they lost a long time ago. But when I want to end, because we're already over time, but I just want to go back to this like picture, because I think that it says so fucking much about Donald Trump. It says so fucking much about him, right? That this is what you're posting. And then I won't even get into the disgusting post that he did following the murder of Rob Reiner and his wife, and how he couldn't. I mean, I just say this all the time. Shutting the fuck up is free.
Yep.
It is free. Just to say my condolences to Rob Reiner's family, and hope that we get to the bottom. Nothing. Can't
But Danielle,
possibly do anything without it being about him.
can I read this? Because I think it's so low, it's so gross, it's so disgusting that it merits us just spending a minute on it, right? Especially
ahead.
just because you
Here
have
it
it up.
is.
Oh, wonderful! I'm so glad you brought it up.
But I only clipped a part of it. But
All right, I have the rest of it. Rob Reiner was beloved, not just in Hollywood, but let me just tell you the movies he made in a row. It's a generational run. It's top of my head for a decade. This is Spinal Tap, The Sure Thing, Stand By Me, Princess Bride, When Harry Met Sally, Misery, Few Good Men. 7 movies in a row, generational movies. All right, and this wasn't even his acting career. This was like even after his successful acting career. In the community, in the entertainment industry, everyone said warm man. When it comes to democratic politics, an activist, fought for women's rights, LGBTQ rights, was against Trump but wasn't cruel. Showed empathy for Charlie Kirk. Said I disagree with him, but the murder was horrific. That was recent. He was allegedly, him and his wife were murdered by their mentally, very disturbed son, who apparently had a history of drug abuse. Just died in the worst way possible. They found knife lacerations. You're seeing the world come out. And praise Rob Reiner, right? Beloved man, like some people's favorite movies are When Harry Met Sally, Stand By Me, Princess Bride, right? Just read the room. Maybe say, oh, I'm hemorrhaging in the polls. Even if I disliked him, rest in peace, Rob. That's it. Maybe say our hearts go out. Obama said something. Gavin Newsom said something. All right. This is what the president of the United States of America, the commander-in-chief, said in response to the brutal murder of one of the most beloved directors who has directed Hollywood classics, and the world is pouring out their grief for him. He said, very sad thing happened last night in Hollywood. Reiner, tortured and struggling, but once very talented movie director and comedy star, passed away together with his wife, Michelle, reportedly due to the anger he caused others through his massive, unyielding, and incurable affliction with a mind-crippling disease known as TDS, sometimes referred to as TDS. He was known to have driven people crazy by his raging obsession by President Donald J. Trump, with his obvious paranoia reaching new heights as the Trump administration surpassed all goals and expectations of greatness, and with the golden age of America upon us, perhaps like never before. And then he ends with, may Rob and Michelle rest in peace. It's one of those things, Danielle. This is who Trump has always been. This is who he has always been. This is who he is. He mocked John McCain. Erica Kirk came out, a couple of months ago. She forgave the shooter. What did Donald Trump do? Remember that? Mm-hmm. I don't forgive. You're better than I am. After he survived the assassination attempt with a diaper on his ear at the RNC, remember what he did? Mocked Paul Pelosi, who got almost got hammered to death. This is who he has always been, Danielle. So I want to end on this. All the people now, because right now he's getting railed by even the right wing. They're like, whoa, this is too much. I'm like, where were you for the past, 70 years? This is who Donald Trump has always been. Cruel, vindictive, angry, selfish, weak, and petty. And this is white supremacy in a nutshell. Sorry for my rant.
And, and here's the thing. We do not have to believe that Donald Trump is the majority. We do not have to believe that his type of thinking, his type of display of just cruelty, dehumanization, stupidity, ignorance, like that is who we have to be collectively as a people. Right? Let Donald Trump be a symbol of like what is wrong and live every day to be better than that piece of shit. right? We should have a president that you want your children to look up to emulate, right? We do not have that. And so, because of that lack, it is our responsibility to be better, right? To show compassion, to show respect, to show dignity, to show grace, because we are lacking it so seriously in this country right now. That is it for us here on Democracy Ish. We ran over in time. Before we get out of here, I just want to thank the super stickers and super thanks. This is independent media. Every single dollar that you all provide goes a long way for allowing us to do the work that we do. Susan, Gatto, Grizelix, Jimmy, T-Gal, Susan again, Cornyn, thank you so very much.
I refuse to use his real voice, Shelley. I refuse. I can't. That's why I have to. I refuse to normalize his idiocy.
But Waj, tell people what you were up to for the rest of the day.
I have Aaron Rupar coming in 2 minutes, and then like an idiot at 2 o'clock I have Stuart Stevens, and then like an idiot at 3 o'clock I have Deborah Shushan. So I've been going from 11. I'm going to go to 4, but they're all fantastic conversations. Aaron Rupar, as you know, follows Fox and the right-wing media. He does those amazing clip-ups. Stuart Stevens is a former Republican, and Deborah Shushan is a fantastic Jewish American leader. We're going to talk about what's happening. There's also a sale that Danielle and I have going on our Substacks. We're terrible capitalists. Everything is free. If you don't have money, there's no paywalls. However, if you want to support independent journalism, we depend on the kindness of strangers. I'm putting in the link in my Substack right now. It's a lefthook.substack.com/discount. /discount, and it's for $3.80 a month, $38 a year. You get to help us, and I've seen that 25% discount of, you know, people are such pain, Danielle. People have told me $5 was too much, but I can do $3.80. So that makes me happy. If you can, give money to Danielle at the Damn Digest. Subscribe to her YouTube channel. If you have a $3.80 left over, think about becoming a monthly subscriber. And if you can't, everything is without paywall.
And folks, the Danielle Moody Show will be pre-taped today and tomorrow because I am traveling for work. But I will be back live on Wednesday, but you will have a pre-tape for the Danielle Moody Show today and tomorrow at 5 p.m. Eastern. Wash and I will be back midweek. And, you know, do what you can to nourish yourselves, take care of yourselves and each other. It has been a rough weekend and a rough start to this week. So take care of yourselves, give yourselves grace, and we will see you back here midweek. Be well.
I'll bring Danielle a fresh receipt of horrors on Monday.
On Wednesday. Be well.
Wednesday.
Bye.
Take care, everyone. Don't be a fascist.
And don't be a fascist.